Howdy folks, Rudros here, and welcome to another Lorcana Wednesday. And today we are going to be doing a very simple and very quick deck, and this is our blue-yellow Hero Rush deck. Definitely an aggressive deck, and one that has been improved a bit by some new cards in the Azurite Sea. Before we go on, if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, feel free to give it a little click. It doesn't cost anything, and it really helps the channel out as we move forward. Also, at Thanksgiving around the bend, just want to say thank you to all of you for watching. It really means a lot. So, you want to go fast, you've got too many of these late game control players at your locals. Nah. Let's run them over. So, this is our blue-yellow hero deck. Why is it a hero deck? Well, to be fair, there's only really one card that takes advantage of that, and that is Ana. Ana says if you have another hero character in play, she gets +1 lore. So it's a 2-cost, 1/4 that quests for 2. That's pretty solid. It's essentially a Daisy that's inkable, plus it doesn't have the downside of Daisy's reveal effect. Speaking of Daisy, a lot of this will look pretty familiar. If you've been playing the game for any amount of time, you have 1-drops that quest for a lot, and you just go fast, put on the pressure. So let's talk about some of the new pieces we have. And one of them is this Lilo, which is a 2-cost, 1/2, quest for 2 lore. And at the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may play her, and she enters play exerted. This is the first essentially infinite revival effect that we've had in the game. So as long as Lilo's in your discard, you can just keep bringing her back turn after turn after turn. Yeah, she comes in exerted, but it's still putting pressure on your opponent that they have to answer this card over and over again. Now, one thing to be aware of, I didn't realize this when I first saw the card. I thought it was kind of just this blanket field effect that you could use it at any time. It actually occurs during the set phase, so you ready all your cards. During the set phase, you have to decide right then and there if you want to revive Lilo. If you draw your card for turn, it's too late. You've technically missed the window, so you can't draw your card for turn, check out what you want to do for the turn, then bring the Lilo in. You kind of have to make the choice ahead of time, but it's just good pressure. Piglet is, of course, generally good aggro pressure as well. Simba is normally just a bodyguard to help protect some of our more vulnerable 1-drops that we have here, but he has a bit of a beefy upgrade now in our new Simba Legendary, the Pride Protector. You can shift him onto Simba for the cost of 3 ink, and at the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready your other characters. Now, I must say, shifting him on 3 isn't amazing, simply because to do that you have to have a single 1-drop. Let's say you have Daisy, you put the Simba on 2, and then you shift the Simba on 3, and all that's going to do is ready the Daisy, which is fine, and it does give you a 2-lore quester that is a 4/4 body. However, it can still be banished by a fox, which is not very good, and ideally you just want to ready more characters than just that one. It is a very good combination with Lilo. Let's say it's a turn where you know you can pay 7 ink, or no, I guess you can't pay him outright because you didn't be exerted. But if you have the Lilos come out and the Simba's out there, the Simba will actually ready the Lilos at the end of the turn, essentially taking away the downside of that. So this is a fun card. We did have Tiana in here originally as well, but it was kind of getting pulled in too many directions. It's like, well, do you want to go in on the Tiana or the Simba? So we just cut the Tiana. We already have 14 uninkables, which is a little high for my personal taste, but should be okay overall. What are some of the other cards we have? Let's talk about Ana and the heroes. Ana is a very good card to play on turn 2. It doesn't threaten quite the lore Piglet does, but with 4 willpower, very difficult for decks like Steel to get rid of, and unless they have a great card like Fox to challenge into it, it's usually going to survive multiple attacks at trying to banish it. We also have a lot of heroes. This Kita is a hero, Lilo is a hero, this Leela is a hero, Piglet is a hero, Simba is a hero, this new Chip is also a hero, Donald is a hero, Mrs. Madrigal is not, Alice is also a hero, as well as Wendy, and Rapunzel, and the Shift Kita, and Simba, and Baymax. So we have a ton of heroes. So legit, the only way this card isn't getting its extra lore if it's just like Daisy Ana. But even if you go Daisy Ana, by the time Ana's ready to quest, whatever you put out on turn 3 is probably going to be a hero. Chip is the card I'm probably the least... he's fine. He oftentimes feels like a worse version of Donald, because they essentially do the same thing. They just give a character an extra lore the turn you play it. Yes, Chip's stats are better, but Donald has the bodyguard, which you probably value more anyway. Chip is better if, let's say, you're going against a Ruby matchup and you know they can just brawl the Donald and then attack your other characters. Then maybe you want to value the Chip since he won't get banished by that, but overall, Donald's still a little better. Julieta Madrigal as well as Rapunzel are just in here for a little bit of card draw. Chances are they're going to have to be challenging into your characters, so healing them up is not only nice for healing purposes, but getting card draw for that, very good as well. Alice is absolutely one of the new standout cards in this set. Yes, it's uninkable. It has the same stats as Anna, but it quests for 2. It inherently has wards, so they cannot target it with anything. And then when it quests, you get to choose another character and give it not only ward, but 1 lore for some reason. So she also helps you go faster. You can be really smart with Alice, too. You don't always want to give it to the same character. Sometimes you want to give it to a character that can't quest. Yeah, they won't take advantage of the lore, but you've just hit them with ward, and you're going to see that in a few of the games I showed you. This card is fantastic. Absolutely love it in this list. Wendy is similar to Chip. It's not really my ideal play. I don't really like this card, so I think you could flex this out if there's something you like better. But it's a 2-quester with ward, which essentially means if you top deck it and you just need 2 lore, there's just not much they can do about it because of that ward ability. The support could be useful if you had to challenge. Ideally, you're not going to be one challenging. Rapunzel's, of course, good for healing. Kita is very good on the shift line. It helps protect your other characters from challenging. Keep in mind, it does lower your own character's strength as well, so just be aware of that if you're trying to challenge something. But Kita is Kita, and she's always been popular in these aggro decks. And finally, Mr. Baymax. He is very fun. It is surprising how much the lore he adds can add up. So again, if they're having to challenge your characters, if they have any damage on it, you can remove at least up to 2 and then gain 1 or 2 lore. And so if he quests and does that, it's strong enough on entry, but when he quests, so he's gaining 2 and then potentially gaining another 2 off someone else, it's incredibly strong. I do wish he had more strength. Having only 2 makes him very susceptible to not only Ruby removal, but some random things like Cloud Kicker. Nonetheless, really like the card. And finally, just some McDuck manners. It's essentially a character that has 9 health, quests for 2 lore. Yes, it doesn't do any return damage, but it also dodges a lot of the normal removal. So the deck is very simple, very straightforward. You want to hit your curve, you want to go fast, and you want to beat your opponent. Let's take a look at it. All right, so this is after our mulligan. We actually do have a Simba line if we wanted to go in on it. We're just going to start with Lilo. I don't remember if I will or will not go in on that. Again, it's not really super strong on turn 3, other than the fact that you get the 2 Simbas out. So ideally, you do want more cards that you could unexert, but if you want to go quick, you can just do it. And here's why I'm debating, do I want to double Lilo? Nope. We go ahead and put out the Anna, which is essentially the stronger version of the 2-cost Lilo since it has more health. Our opponent is going to be on purple something. Nice thing about going against this new Diablo card, it can't challenge into this Lilo. It doesn't have any strength. They are going to bounce it with a snake. And so now we know our characters, they can come out. Here's where the Simba would have been okay, as it could have readied the Lilo, but it itself would essentially be food for a fox, potentially. So I opt to go with 2. I could have done Alice there as well. Alice start trying to get the ward online. But I actually leave everybody up. I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'll just be patient a turn, Simba, and here's where something like Cloud Kicker comes in and says, nah. My opponent, I think, was even said, I'm not going to let you shift. I know what you're trying to do. I was like, oh, come on, man. I'm trying to have fun here. So I actually run Anna into the snake to put 3 damage on it so I can heal it with Rapunzel and instantly make it stronger. I don't have any shift here. I could finish off the snake with the Kita, which is what I decided to do. It's just one less thing to worry about. I'm still holding up the Lilo because there's still a part of me that wants to try to make this Simba line work. Whether we'll actually get to it or not, we will see. And our biggest enemy here is a card like Madame Mim Fox, since it can just devour any of these cards, and none of these cards hit back particularly hard. Simba's probably our best attacker. So unfortunately, our opponent's going to get many, many turns to bite us in 2. After a bit of math, opponent decides to sing Friends on the other side with Cloud Kicker, and then they do use the Fox to finish up the Anna. Here's I could trade Rapunzel and Lilo into the Fox, but that does not seem like a good idea at all. Have some more Simbas. Could go in on both Kita. I just decided to put the big Simba out. He unfortunately is not going to be able to exert this turn. I go ahead and quest with Rapunzel. Potentially, you could argue that's a little risky because you could use both the Fox and the Broom to take the Rapunzel out this turn. But I'm hoping, and the Rapunzel doesn't even counter the Broom. And I think I kind of fooled myself when I saw that. I was like, well, wait a minute. No, Rapunzel will trade favorably here with the Broom. For some reason, I thought she would banish the broom if our opponent challenged with the broom, which would deny them card draw. No, that's not how it works. It doesn't matter anyway because our opponent has the crab. So they were going to deal with it regardless. So Simba is ready to go. Again, unfortunately, the fox deals with Simba so easily. So thinking that, I was like, you know what? I think I need some protection here. Let's get out the warded cards and quest with the Lilo, quest with the Simba. The Lilo will get readied at the end of the turn. I could have been patient and warded the Simba, but ward doesn't really do much in this particular matchup. Our opponent isn't going to target it with anything. They're just going to keep challenging it with all these characters. So now it's just kind of a race to see what we see if we can get there first. The nice thing is the Simba at least will trade with the fox. And because he has 4 willpower as well, they can't just send the crab or just send the snake into it. They could like crab and then crab challenger effect. Yeah, so they quest with the crab. They're going to use the crab bounce effect. They could use it on the fox. They could use it on the snake. Whatever they prefer. Those Mana Mim cards, pretty good, huh? They actually put out a Maleficent Staff. This has been a fun card, so one of the goals of this deck is probably to keep bouncing my cards, and then that way they gain lore off of that. So it is time for a little Baymax power. I just put him out even though there's nothing to heal, but what we do is we put a ward on Baymax and a ward on Lilo, bump her up, so now Lilo, the lore was incorrect there. For some reason, the lore die on Tabletop Simulator come out as a +6 for some reason. They used to just come out as a +1. I don't know when or why that was changed, so I should not be at 20 yet. I'm accurately at 15, but now I have every character on this board has ward. Maybe not huge in this matchup because our opponent's just going to be challenging us, but our entire board is protected, plus with the Simba. We did empty our hand out too, using the Simba to try to keep just as much lore as possible alive. Can our opponent prevent us from winning on this next turn? It's the only card they can bounce with Mother Knows Best. They had to choose the Simba, which does turn off the bodyguard. But yeah, he was showing, man, you have 4 characters with ward. All of a sudden, I can't target them with anything. Crab's going to power up the broom, and Alice will take out the other one. So we have 4 lore, and we need 5 more. Oh, but wait a minute. We have lethal. Donald Duck off the top. Give the Lilo the extra one. Yeah, I don't mind if I do. That's going to be game 1. Game 2. We do have a Kita shift line here. We also have a Daisy. Looks like I went in for I probably should have kept a 1-drop there. I'm not 100% sure why I didn't, but I think I was trying to just dig for some of the newer cards. I was like, I want to show off some of the combos. So we do still put a Kita. We also have a Lilo we can put out. Chernabog. I go ahead and ink the chip, and we do the Lilo. For some reason, I put the Lilo in Exerted, like the text on the card where she comes back from the discard pile Exerted is always stuck in my head, so I always play her Exerted, and my opponent had to keep reminding me, no, it's only when she comes back from the discard. She's like she's a bodyguard. She doesn't just enter that way. Our opponent trades with the Chernabog, which I'm 100% okay with. It means they gave up their card draw. And they were essentially afraid of a Kita shift line. I never even had the Kita. So Donald Duck's going to come protect our Lilo. And when our opponent doesn't have a card on board on turn 3, that's really important against purple because they cannot fox you this turn. They have to already have a character there to bounce. So now if they were just to play a fox, they would have to banish it, and that'd be their entire turn. Excuse me. So instead, what they do is they pay a Kit Cloud Kicker, which is very annoying to have to keep replaying these cards, but it is what it is. I can go in on the Manor, which is what I decided to do. Let's get 2 ducks out there. One of them's a Manor, and one of them's an actual duck. Now our opponent is going to have to do quite a bit of challenging to get this card off the board. But you will also get to see the power of purple and how it can really manipulate strength values to... Suddenly 9 health doesn't seem as daunting or as insurmountable as perhaps you first thought it was. 2 from the kit. They load up with a Chernabog as well as a Fox. Bounce the kit. Another 4 on there. It's already at 6, so this Fox is ready to chomp on this McDuck Manor on the next turn. So instead, I decide to get Alice out there. And I move them both into the Manor just because I could have inked the Lilo. I was valuing the Baymax a little more, potentially, since I'm probably going to take a lot of damage. We bounce the Donald again. And the McManor's gone. Yeah. Surprising how very little 9 health lasted that turn. Madam Mim Fox. What a card. So here we have Anna. We have Alice. We have a few choices. So I'm going to give her 1 lore. Anna's going to get a little extra lore. and I quest. I think I warded the Ana there. There's not much point in warding the Donald unless I'm worried about another kit. I might have warded Donald too. I was in voice chat with my opponent, so I was able to just declare it, but I don't 100% remember. So it looks like our opponent quests with kit, runs the fox into it, is going to just bounce the fox again. Oh my goodness, this fox is just eating me alive. And this card is such a pain. But Kita's a good way to counter it. To a degree. Except if they bounce the fox and replay it, now it's not affected by the Kita shift. So in another way, it completely gets around Kita's protection, which is very annoying. I just leave the Ana up there. I'm going to potentially try to protect it with ward, or at least give it extra lore. So this way they just can't outright bounce it with the kit. And if our opponent bounces anything right now, too, they have 2 Maleficent Staffs on the field. Luckily, it doesn't count for their own bouncing, or oh my gosh, they'd already have more lore. Yep, opponent bounces there. They go all the way to 9, and I'm like, oh man, this is getting kind of dicey. So I go ahead and put the Kita out, and I get the Daisy out as well. Alice, and I think I give ward to... I don't remember if I give it to the Daisy or the Kita. Now here's the funny thing here. The Kita makes... So at first I thought, well, the Kita can't get hit by the Cloud Kicker, right? Because it has 3 strength. However, the Kita lowers everyone's strength this turn. So her strength is actually currently at 0. So because of that, it could make sense to give ward to the Kita. That way it can't be bounced with the kit. Our opponent has 0 strength on their side as well, other than the 1 fox. Except they have another fox, and fox is not subject to the power of Kita. So they just do that as well. Oh my goodness, these foxes. This place is overrun with foxes. We need a hero. We need a hero. And I think we're about to get it. So we'll quest with Daisy, see what our opponent gets. And instead, I think I'm actually going to challenge. I get rid of the kit to play Baymax, heal off the Kita. Now we get 2 for that, and I put out the Daisy. So now I'm saying, okay, well, you can't fox all of these things, and a single fox does not take care of the Kita. And I lowered his board state too, because I was actually a little worried about my opponent winning. If they quest 3 times, go to 15, a single bounce on me triggers 2 Maleficent Staffs. That puts them to 17. If they have any kind of instant lore, goat, white rose, anything, they could actually win. So I was like, I gotta lower their board count, so this way I can essentially make sure I can get to my lethal next turn. And now our opponent has 4 characters, all of them questing for 2. Fox will take out the Daisy. And can they get us? He has a Bruno for the Baymax, which does make me discard it, and that counts as a bounce too, but it's not enough. And Kita and Daisy are going to get us there. Whew, that was close. Those Maleficent Staffs can be quite scary. So we've got a few good options here. I will usually prioritize Daisy over Lilo, even though, yes, it can give your opponents cards. It's just a bigger body that's harder for your opponent to deal with. We have a Simba shift line here if we really want to go in on it. I opt for the Daisy. We've got the Ana as well, which is, again, two cards that quest for 2 with 4 willpower. On turn 2 is very nice. Our opponent showing off the new Azurite, Sail the Azurite Sea. As you can see, I don't value this Wendy a whole lot, so I have to get rid of her. Luckily, Daisy causes a miss, puts a Vision of the Future on the bottom. So now, knowing they're on steel, no ruby, no purple to worry about. Okay, let me get the high willpower out here. Opponent does a Flaversham, which does help them draw deeper, but they're not dealing with our board right now. These are the kind of decks that you can potentially beat up on. So we make sure we get our lore correct this time. Donald is going to give 1 extra lore to one of these characters, and we're already up to 7 with a bodyguard, knowing our opponent doesn't really have rush. So they put out 2 Oswald, trying to hit some items. Nope, that's a whiff. They do get a popsicle off of it at least, which will draw them 1 deeper, including another popsicle. So they're going to have cards for days, but they're still limited by how much ink they have. So unless they can keep ramping faster than us, we might be able to really put some pressure on. Got a lot of choices here. Could go in on the Simba line to set up the shift potentially, which is looks like what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the Lilo and the Simba. Now I have double bodyguard, and they have a bunch of Oswald. So I'm like, all right, well, deal with this. I'm already up to 12 lore, and you got to chew through 2 bodyguards with some Oswalds and Flaversham on the board. And you can see my opponent's mouse going crazy because they're trying to figure out, okay, wait a minute, how do I deal with all this? They do reveal a lucky dime off the Oswald. Holy moly. So if this game goes on long enough, that card is absolutely going to ensure they win, so we got to go fast. Grab your sword is a darn good way to start. That's going to load up a ton of damage on everybody. They finish off the Donald with the Flaversham, finish off the Simba with the Oswald, and they take out a bunch of cards, but they're forced to give up both of their Oswalds. Now here I'm going to use the Lilo effect. Just based on what's in my hand, I say, nope, I'd rather draw into it. So now I have 2 cards, especially with the Flaversham. I know Flaversham can't threaten either of these, and we go ahead and put out the Alice. Take a bit of a risk by inking the Rapunzel. And see, if I'd have known I was going to draw the Rapunzel, maybe I wouldn't have done Lilo because I would have just healed up the Daisy, but I didn't know I was going to get Rapunzel, so those choices you're just going to have to make with that Lilo. That's an instance where I could have been patient, but again, if I hadn't drawn Rapunzel, if I'd drawn some 1-drop, maybe it's not as worth it. And our opponent trying to figure out how to answer all this pressure. Tinkerbell does finish off the Daisy, but Lilo will only stay with 1 damage on her. And now we've got double Simba. And here is where you can see the power of Alice. So we put out the Simba. Our opponent's like, uh-oh. Well, at least he can't exert this turn, right? But Alice gives Simba ward. We go to 18. So I have a warded character with 2 lore. And my opponent is going to dig and show me that, like, yeah, I had something like a Let It Go. The Tinkerbell can obviously easily challenge these cards. It can challenge into the Alice and then finish off the Lilo. But the Simba has ward. How do you deal with a warded 4/4 in a Sapphire Steel deck? You can hit it, Let It Go, but not when it has ward, which is my opponent is going to show here in a moment that, yeah, if you hadn't warded the Simba, I could have hit it with the Let It Go, but with the ward, I couldn't deal with it. So the ward gets us there with the Alice, and we're going to quest for game. Like any aggro deck, this deck can burn itself out, so you need to win quickly, but you know what? It's good at winning quickly. And it's just fun. There's something I just enjoy about this version compared to the Amber Amethyst version that relies on Chromacon, which also feeds your opponent's hands. I'm not saying this one is even superior to that, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just getting to splash into the Sapphire or the Alice protection is just that much of a fun mechanic to play with, but I really enjoy it. So give it a whirl, see what you think about it. I appreciate you watching so much. Look forward to more Disney Lorcana content coming out real soon. And until next time, take care.